All right, today we are stepping into the absolutely mind-bending world of MC Escher. You know, the artist who built staircases that go nowhere and somehow made water flow uphill. Let's get into it. We're kicking things off with one of his most iconic works, Relativity. And at first glance, yeah, it's just a busy scene. But really look at it. You've got people walking upstairs while other people are walking down them on the exact same surface. Walls are floors, floors are ceilings, and gravity, well, it seems to be pulling in three different directions at once. It's this world that feels perfectly logical and completely impossible, all at the same time.
And that's the question, isn't it? Escher's work just completely messes with our heads, making us question the very space we live in. So how did he do it? I mean, how did he actually construct these worlds that seem to just break all the rules of logic? To really get what Escher was doing, we have to become architects ourselves, architects of the impossible. We're going to peel back the layers of his most famous paradoxical buildings and find the mathematical blueprints he hid inside. You know, this quote is the perfect way to think about his art. Escher wasn't just doodling. He was designing these incredible intellectual puzzles. These weren't just random daydreams. They were meticulously crafted games that had their own internal logic, even if that logic was completely paradoxical. Okay, so take a look at Waterfall. It really does look like a perpetual motion machine, right? The water flows along, it tumbles down, turns the water wheel, and then, poof, it's magically back at the top to start all over again. How does he trick our eyes into seeing this? Well, the secret isn't magic. It's a very specific and very impossible object. Let me introduce you to the Penrose triangle. Now, this thing looks totally fine as a 2D drawing, but if you tried to actually build one in our 3D world, no way, it's impossible. See, each corner makes sense by itself, but when you put them all together, the whole thing becomes a paradox. And this is where Escher's genius just shines. He didn't just use one Penrose triangle, he stacked them. The entire aqueduct is built from this impossible geometry. It creates a structure that seems to be flat, uphill, and downhill all at the same time. It's what forces the water into that never-ending loop.
All right, let's jump to another one of his impossible structures, Belvedere. Just look at those pillars for a second. The pillars in the front are holding up the back of the top floor, and the pillars in the back are holding up the front. It's a total structural nightmare, but somehow it looks solid. So what's going on?
The secret here is another classic illusion, the Necker cube. Our brains can look at this simple 2D drawing and flip between two different 3D interpretations. Escher basically took that little trick and blew it up to an architectural scale. He designed the building so our brain sees the top and bottom floors in two conflicting ways, and then he just seamlessly stitched them together into one impossible building. But Escher wasn't just interested in paradox and illusion. He was also completely obsessed with perfect, infinite order. So his other great, serious game was figuring out how to tile a flat surface with repeating patterns that could literally go on forever. And believe it or not, this obsession all started with a trip. He visited the Alhambra Palace in Spain and spent days just sketching the amazing Moorish tile work. He was just captivated by how these simple geometric shapes could lock together so perfectly, with no gaps at all. And that experience, it became the foundation for the rest of his life's work. But Escher being Escher, he couldn't just stop with squares and triangles. He figured out how to transform those basic geometric shapes into living things. You've got fish, birds, lizards, all fitting together in this perfect, repeating dance. He'd basically invented his own system for creating these things, all from intuition. Now, what he didn't know at first was that his artistic gut feeling was actually tapping into a really deep mathematical truth, a truth that all boils down to this one number. So what's so special about 17? Well, it turns out that mathematicians had already proven there are exactly 17 ways to tile a flat plane with a repeating pattern. They're called the wallpaper groups. And when Escher finally found the work of mathematician George Polya, who had drawn out all 17 types, he must have been floored. He realized his art was a visual exploration of this complete mathematical system. But what about infinity? How do you cram an infinite pattern into a finite space? Well, that breakthrough came from another mathematician, H.S.M. Coxeter. He sent Escher a drawing of a pattern in hyperbolic space, a kind of curved geometry. And for Escher, seeing this was a total game changer. It gave him, in his own words, quite a shock. So the mathematical tool is called the Poincaré disk model.
It's basically a way to map an infinite curved surface onto a small, flat circle. As shapes move towards the edge, they get smaller and smaller and smaller, but they never actually reach it. Escher saw that and immediately got it. He used this model to create his famous circle limit series, where you see angels and demons shrinking towards an infinite horizon, all contained within one single circle.
Okay, so we've had impossible buildings and infinite patterns. Now Escher's moving on to his most abstract challenge yet, exploring the actual properties of space itself. Welcome to the world of topology.
And the perfect way to dip our toes into topology is with the Moebius strip. Look at these ants. They can just crawl along the surface of this thing forever, top, bottom, inside, outside, without ever crossing an edge. Why? Because a Moebius strip only has one side and one edge. It's a complete paradox of a surface. And that leads us to what might be his most profound, most brain-melting work of all, print gallery. Okay, follow me here. We see a guy in a gallery. He's looking at a print of a seaside town. As our eyes follow the town in the picture, we see that very same art gallery with that very same guy looking at that very same print. The picture contains itself. To explain this, we need a term coined by Douglas Hofstadter, the strange loop. It's a system that paradoxically twists back around and contains itself. The man in the picture is both the observer and the thing being observed. He's trapped inside this infinite self-referential loop. Escher literally drew what a recursive reality would look like. So after all this, what was Escher? Was he an artist who used a bit of math, or a mathematician who happened to be an incredible artist? The truth is, the line is just completely blurry. His work was a genuine dialogue, a two-way street where art and math were constantly inspiring each other. And this timeline just shows it perfectly. Look at this back and forth. In 1954, Escher's art inspires the mathematician Roger Penrose. A few years later, Penrose publishes his idea for the impossible tribar, which we now call the Penrose triangle. He sends his sketches back to Escher, who then turns around and uses those exact ideas to create Waterfall. It's a complete, beautiful circle of inspiration. When you get right down to it, Escher's serious games and brain gymnastics did something truly remarkable. They gave us a visual dictionary, a picture book, really, for some of the most complex ideas in mathematics, from group theory to topology. He managed to make invisible ideas visible. And so Escher's legacy leaves us with this one last fascinating question. By walking that tightrope between these two worlds, he showed us that maybe they're not two different things at all. Maybe they're just different ways of looking at the same deep, beautiful structure of reality itself.